Welcome to our channel.
If you're here for a large prop design, you're in the right place. If you're here for something else, you're not in the right place.
Alright, so
we originally were contacted or asked to do this panel because Laura Towers created what some of you guys may have seen as the steampunk dinosaur, and it was a 23-foot long, fully articulated and puppeteered steampunk dinosaur, which had you decapitated and brought to you guys.
unfortunately, like, we would have brought the whole entire dinosaur, but he went to a recent filming. He was in like a small little mini-series, and the stagehands actually destroyed the rest of his body. So all that's really left is his head, and a couple of his legs, and his teddy bear at the end. You can, if you want to see him moving around and stuff, there's a video on YouTube you can check out. Just type in steampunk dinosaur, and it's like the only one that exists. This is his head. Normally he has like lights and stuff that work in here, and his eyes light up, and squeeze, mouth opens. So, first of all, I'd like to start by, does anyone have any questions first? About anything, large props?
Can we take pictures?
Yep.
Okay.
Go for it.
How long did it take to make it?
The large dinosaur? About 3 months. However fast. I also very rarely sleep. But the first thing I'd like to say is when creating large props and stuff like that is you want to make sure you are comfortable. Because if you're uncomfortable, you're not going to have fun with anything. You're just being miserable the whole time. So it's all about comfort. Like inside the dinosaurs, I had, you can see the wiring that is in here. These were all wires for a camera, the lighting, everything. Because there was a camera built into his nose, so I can see from the inside of the dinosaur nose. And people can communicate by using like sign language because I couldn't hear anything inside there.
Which was a fun costume contest, by the way, because I would sit there and be like,
And keeping on with that same theme, this is Cobalt Shell. You'll see me sometime this weekend in my whole Cobalt Shell outfit. But I would have a problem breathing inside this helmet. So I made a air suction that sucks regular air out and pushes it into the helmet. So I can actually have airflow over my face and not suffocate to death. Because that's not fun passing out in the middle of a comic.
whenever you're designing large props, especially in the beginning, you have to think about the functionality of it. I mean, we all dream of walking into an event and being Gundam. Be like, oh, we're a giant robot. We're just looking really cool and something huge. But there are some functionality pieces you have to think about. Air breathing is an important one, but also your body temperature. Even in here, it's kind of, I'm originally from Arizona, so to me this is cold. But when you're in something huge, your body temperature has nowhere to go. And so you become like a rock pot or pressure cooker of personal body heat. So those kind of things are also important.
Yeah, like when we learned about making the dinosaur, we learned while we were at the con, so it was way too late for this. But instead of pushing air into the costume, to actually suck the hot air out. So that was a huge learning curve for us. So we're like, oh, well, that's
Hot.
good. And we're in the middle of Arizona, in the middle of the desert, and I'm in a gigantic foam dinosaur that weighs 110 pounds. It was miserable. I was pale white, I was sweating.
Yeah, it was a lot. So So the reason we want to teach this panel is because we've done a couple of really big things now. Dino being the largest of the big things, but a couple of big props. And I will be honest, we have learned a lot from our mistakes. Lots of mistakes. But I wanted, we both wanted to kind of talk about the process of coming up with a design, knowing how to think about those functionality pieces, and then the most important rule of play testing it before you take it somewhere. That way you don't die in the Arizona desert looking like a dinosaur. So do you want to talk about how you come up with the idea?
Well, how we kind of came up with Dino was we were on a car ride to MisCon down in Arizona. We travel a lot, so one of our favorite conventions is MisCon down in Arizona. So we go all out for that one. We create all new costumes, everything. And when we went down there in 2014, I think. We have been talking, we're like, what has no one ever done with steampunk? So we were thinking, we were going over ideas, and she just randomly blurted out, dinosaur. I'm like, okay, hold on. That's an idea. So I elaborated on that idea, and then I started construction on Christmas Day and ended on March 3rd.
The first step, what we did to come up with the big prop, so and this qualifies for any large prop that you design,
Understructure.
is the understructure and kind of the general framework of what you're going to build. Otherwise, you get foam on foam or you get wood on wood and there's not anything to help provide shape. And so thinking about those kind of logistic things up front saves you the heartache of having to go back in at a later time and try to reinforce it. And so we drafted out the dinosaur. Trust me, that first draft is nothing what it turned out to look like. There were so many revisions. It goes for any of our larger pieces, including the backpack and bird skull. Each one of those was drafted in the first draft. Don't kick yourself if it doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look like the first time, because that means you're probably doing it right. And then just doing the physicalities of it. If you have something this large as Dino, how are you going to transport that? Do you need double doors to get into a place? A lot of conventions are like this one where if you were going to bring something in that's only a single door, you can only be so big and so wide.
And so, like with the dinosaur, we made him modular, so his body detaches from his legs, tail, head, everything came apart. I don't know if he still has his connection on here. Yeah, he has a connection right here that actually attaches to the spine of the body itself, and it's all articulated. These are all Swiffer pieces, so if you need a cheap U-joint or anything, Swiffers. So, and he was fully mobile, so he's supported from here. He was able to move and articulate. And you can hang him to the control. So, you hold it.
It was designed for him, and as you can tell, there's a bit of a height difference.
So when he's moving, I was able to actually control all of his movements. Did you have a look? Just like that. And all of that was connected to the spine of the entire frame. You want to keep things kind of lightweight because you're going to be carrying this for up to 8 hours.
And even if it's not something you're wearing, even if it's like bird skull, for example, you have to bring it in.
This is lightweight.
So weight is something incredibly important to think about. Even foam, a lot of prop makers talk about EVA foam. It's amazing. It's versatile. If you get a chance, go to your local Harbor Freight or Walmart and pick some up and play with it and set it on fire. It doesn't smell very good when you do it. But it is fun and versatile, it takes paint very well and performs, it's just amazing. But when you get a whole bunch of that together,
It starts to
it
weigh
starts to
on
get
it.
heavy. And I hate to pick on you, but your arm is so awesome back
Oh, you're
there.
fine.
But I would imagine even with that much foam, it gets heavy, right?
A little bit, yeah.
So,
And at first, you're like, okay, EVA foam, nice lightweight, then you add more, and then more, and then more, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this weighs a ton. So you want to keep it kind of lightweight, mobile. You don't ever want to lock in a body part, and what I mean by lock in a body part is, like for instance, there's this guy that we always talk to down in Arizona, again, sorry for bringing up Arizona all the time, but he made an arm, and in the arm, he literally made it a frozen pose. So he was able to put his arm in, take his arm out, but the elbow never turned. So there was never any movement in the elbow. You never want to do that because at the end of the day, holding your arm at like that position, that does not get comfortable in any body part. It doesn't matter which one you do. You just don't want to be locked into that position because that will get very painful after maybe an hour or so.
the other thing to consider is quick escape.
Emergency.
Emergency escape. So it was really funny when we were doing Dino, Olga, heat stroke. And the irony was, if he passed out, suddenly you have to call 911, and you're like, by the way, there's this guy in a dinosaur, and I think he's dead. The ambulance doesn't know what to do with that. EMTs are not trained, just road cosplayers.
They will just cut it off without any regards to anything. They'll just cut it off, jaws of life, whatever they have to do.
Yeah, so that 4 months you spent on something that's down the line. So think about also emergency quick release. If I pass out, if I have some other kind of emergency, can I get out of this fast enough to address that? If the building's on fire, can I physically get out in time for it to be safe? I mean, those are things that we never thought about when we made Dino until they were too late.
Just before we went and debuted Dino, I designed a quick release system in case if I had to unbuckle him and throw him off of me, like for some reason he caught on fire or something, because I was running a lot of voltage through the entire thing.
And this is how you can tell we're originally from Arizona, because we have a lot of fear of fire. It's on fire! Well, yeah, so when designing a prop, our recommendation is think about the functionality. Can you physically get into place? Can you physically carry it? Will all the materials be light enough for you to be comfortable? Are you able to move freely? And are you able to get out in case of an emergency? And also, is there going to be anything that's going to be deadly to your physical being? For example, I'm terribly allergic to nickel. One of those great like nickel allergy people. If I make something that has great nickel buckles on it and I have to wear it for 8 hours, that's going to be a fun anaphylactic to me. So thinking about your own unique person and how that affects you as well when designing those large props. Now the next stage is actually figuring out how to build it, which is fun.
Yeah.
So be creative, recognizing that your original plan is probably not going to be how it ends. Especially with, so when we designed Dino, when we'll design Dino, we knew these needed to be U joints for it to be post-tiered.
Maybe you realize that actual like metal U-joint stuff, like they have to find the other ends.
So be creative. And, so it was funny because it's hard to picture us like in a house, like cleaning. People who know us think that's funny and not realistic either, but I was referring and he goes, what's that? Yeah, maniacal laughter. The irony is yes, U-joints are $150 a piece. You never realize how expensive like 17 Swiffers become.
Well, there's only 7 in here.
But yeah, so also assessing your costs. I'm going to make a big assumption. Nobody here says, I want this awesome thing and I want to spend $100,000 making it because that's outrageous.
You want to be as cheap as possible. That way you have more money to you other stuff look like and my life.
This is fun. But knowing a budget too, giving yourself a budget. I want to make a dinosaur and I want to make it on X, Y, and Z amount of money. That way, if you get into the project and you're starting to make like a materials list, and you're like, well, what do I need to do? 7 Swiffers. Oh, and they're $20 a pop. Holy cow! That's $140. Well, I need PVC and I need, you know,
27 packs of CBA pump.
a $10 sheet. Suddenly you're going, holy moly, this just got really expensive. You have to really assess whether there are cheaper alternatives for what you're using, or whether you're really want to with dinosaur. Because there is, we made Dino in $550, which was the most we've ever spent on a prop. But
No. That's it.
so once you get into the construction phase, also the logistics of the construction phase. When Noah was making his first, when Lord Tower was making his first backpack, this is Mark II. He was making his first one. We worked in our living room. And anyone here live with somebody else? Anyone here live with somebody else who's not a cosplayer? They look at you really weird when they're like, what's this hard spot in the carpet? What is this? Not okay.
That would be fine.
I don't know if there's fiber, but that's in the carpet. So we were working in our living room. So recognizing your own space limitations as well is important.
Obviously, you're not going to build a 23-foot long dinosaur in a 300 square foot space.
And it's not that it's impossible, but you have to recognize that now I just need to make the pieces smaller so they're more manageable to move around, so that the other people in the living room have some quality of life while I'm doing this. We actually got him stuck in our garage for a brief minute. But yeah, also the other thing I really recommend, after you get it constructed, there's really things that you realize aren't working right, and that's okay. We probably reworked his knee joints probably 10 times. That backpack every about 2 years gets a whole revision. So
A whole new rewiring, circuit boards, smoke units. That thing's the most used thing I have ever owned or even ever made. This is Mark II. There's a Mark III and IV that no one has ever seen. Well, some people have seen number 3, but then it took it still.
there's some trauma and some loss involved.
It was awesome. Now he sits in my garage, rusting old.
But really, one of the most important things is once you get it completely down, you're like, this is awesome. Test it.
Don't wait until like the day before the event.
Don't just test it once. Test it twice, 3 times, 4 times. Make sure that you can do what you want to do.
This serves 2 purposes.
Like walks down the street. People will stare at you strange for walking down the street. We live down the street from a fire department. And then all of a sudden they see a dinosaur creeping down the road. And they're like, what? What? What is that? And then they just get inside their fire truck and they're like, okay, I'm gonna go find a cat and put it in the tree. I need to say something because those people are just weird.
We had a lot of fun chasing the firemen down the street because like it's right there and you get the dinosaur and he stick his head around the bush. And you could tell that they were looking and they washing the fire truck very slowly.
They got kind of used to us as we walk around the dinosaurs. Right now I'm in the process of building a whole entire new large prop, which is a steampunk mech, I'm calling it, but it's not really kind of hard to explain. When you guys see it, you'll see it. But they get to see some really interesting stuff. Like me right down the street, I'm a tiny bar smoking backpacks, and they're like, I don't know what I should put you out in.
Again, to eat the fear of fire, I'm just saying. But it serves so many purposes. One thing, you don't want to get to an event and realize you can't move. You don't want to get to an event and realize that you can't breathe or that something's significantly wrong and not be able to fix it, because that's heartbreaking.
And always bring a repair kit too, in case if something does decide to break, you know exactly what tools you have to fix that. So whatever tools you use to make it, bring those. Unless you made it with like a lathe and CNC mill and stuff, you might want to leave those.
So once you've done a couple play tests, then you can do some more play tests. But then you can use it. But really, just starting off, recognizing that it's not going to necessarily end up the way you originally thought it was going to be. That you really got to think about the internal structure and the safety aspects of it, and then the play test. There's so many times that we've done things that I say these out of experience. I don't trust me. Many mistakes I've learned from. If you don't play test it, you're so frustrated. Yeah, so we use. Do you guys want to know more about? We originally designed this to talk about like the process of making large props, but we also have great information on materials and techniques if you'd like that.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. One of you guys, we talk about foam and how. Does anyone here have played with EVA foam before? Does anyone here want to learn how to play with EVA foam? Okay.
So this is EVA foam. If you guys want to feel what it feels like, either feel me or touch that guy over there. But EVA foam. EVA foam is a flexible material, often found for like garage floors. It's like a soft little covering. Sometimes they use them for like work places and stuff. And they're interlocking mats. And what I always do is I cut off the edges first, and then I have a square instead of like this weird key. But they always, not always, but they most of the time have this texture on them. And if you want a smooth side, you just flip to the smooth side. If you want a textured side, you just flip to the textured side. When you're working with it, X-Acto knife cuts it pretty good. Just X-Acto knife, nice, sharp. I usually use the gold tip X-Acto knives because they seem to cut a little bit easier. Don't cut them on your living room nice wood floors. That's a bad idea. I learned that one. But then when working with it, you can also bend it into shapes, heat it, and it'll stay there. So you get a heat gun, you can bend it into a shape, heat it up, hold it there for a minute, let it cool down, and it'll stay frozen generally in that shape. It won't always match the shape 100%, but you can generally get it in the right area.
For those of you without a heat gun, a hair blow dryer on super hot works too.
Takes a little bit longer, but it gets there eventually.
Or if you really don't like your oven.
I wouldn't actually recommend using your oven in it. Not that I don't use your oven. I have, but don't. These have an outgassing that produces a gas that can actually damage your lungs. So you don't actually want to use it in an oven unless your oven is like outside your house or something. You want a nice breeze coming through, open your doors, turn on fans, just to get the air out. Plus it doesn't leave your food tasting very good later. So you can, but I urge you not to. But then, okay, gluing them together. Some people use different methods, but how did you use your hot glue? Okay, you can use hot glue. You can use super glue if you want an instantaneous form to it. Everything that I used on this is all weld wood. So you get the stuff, it's for tacking down like a carpet and stuff. So you can get it at like Home Depot or Lowe's. Weld wood.
Like we're welding.
I think that's the brand name. I don't know what the actual technical term is, but it's like the brand name. And when you look at the cans, make sure on the can it says foam. If it doesn't say foam, it won't hold nearly as good, and it can separate. We were taking this down to Arizona, so we couldn't have hot glue because hot glue gets saggy in the heat. So we had to keep it kind of together and not falling apart. There are some parts of him that are hot glued, and I paid for that later. But all of these seams right here are all well welded together, and they hold really good.
And hot glue works, especially like up here where we were going is literally like 120. So it was hotter than the melting point of hot glue, so this wasn't gonna.
Like for instance, the inside of this ring was all hot glued in here, and it's coming out. So that was.
So is located a contact cement?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much just like there's contact cement and then contact cement on crack as well.
Okay, because I just read it, you know, around walls with the.
If those could work, yeah.
Barge cement.
Yeah, bars work. Again, has the same foam on it.
Yeah.
Some don't. Some are just meant for like fabrics and stuff like that. You have to really kind of read the container and make sure you know all the warnings and everything too, because weldwood does not smell pleasant either. And staying in a garage with it for 12 hours a day.
Ventilation is very important.
Yes.
Big fans. Open windows, doors. I don't particularly the ghetto. Open your door in this area. Again, learning from our mistakes. What have you been doing in here all day? It's just spray paint.
I'm known for spray painting inside the house.
See, I see it.
What's the smallest craft you've ever done?
Smallest? Smallest prop that I ever made was a super mini backpack. It was about that big, and it was for a monkey. And somebody commissioned me to make a robotic monkey for their shoulder, and they wanted buttons to make them move and all that kind of stuff. So I made this monkey, and they're like, surprised me with something like really steampunk for it. So I made this little itty bitty backpack, and had like a little smokestack and a little fire in it, and went on his back, and it was about that big.
Do you guys ever have any problems with like epoxies or resins or anything degrading the foam? Like I know some of them can chemically burn the foam.
There's a new trick. No one has even done this that I know of, except for me. But you have to know a little bit about 3D printing in order to do this trick. So you don't have to own a 3D printer to do this, but a lot of people want to have like that hard, like solid look to the foam instead of having it kind of matte color. You want it to be shiny.
Yeah.
There's a new way that I don't want to say that I developed it, but I discovered it on accident that you can use. There's this 3D printer filament called ABS, and it dissolves in acetone. So if you take this a decent amount of ABS plastic, cut it off from the roll, put it in a bunch of acetone, shake it up, let it dissolve over a couple days, and it'll dissolve completely into the acetone. And then you take a paintbrush, you can paint it on, it'll create a nice smooth layer across the entire thing.
Think of Mod Podge, but super mod.
But it's actually forming a layer of plastic on the entire thing.
And the nice thing is that we're still experimenting with it. So if you try it and like you set your house on fire, you get fired. Don't blame us. But it does, it creates almost like that armor shell feeling. So you still have the soft squishy on the inside, soft on the outside. Yeah, it's a really cool technique. And pretty cheap too, because you can get like one of those little practice rolls at ABS on Amazon for like $2.
Something about this size.
But we
This is
have
3D
it-
printer filament. So you can probably get something about that big on like Amazon for a couple bucks. And that much can probably do this entire head. Just a little bit will go a long way because you're just brushing it on. I would probably use a couple coats, and it'll create a nice good shell over the entire thing.
We have experienced that some chemicals will actually degrade the foam. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But don't be afraid to experiment with gloves and goggles and a face mask.
Do you have to twist the phone because the pants does not peel off when after like to make it so it stays on when it's flexing?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. This is probably the most expensive part of this entire build. There's this stuff called Plasti Dip, and it comes in like a spray can too. Plasti Dip, one container goes a long way, but when you're making an entire dinosaur, 20 cans of it does not go that far. So use this stuff called Plasti Dip. Whenever you spray the Plasti Dip on there, it creates kind of like a rubber coating on the entire thing. And it is paintable, all that kind of stuff. And I do this trick with my stuff in order to get like metal type colors and stuff. Always paint your stuff black as your undercoat, because when you spray paint a silver coat on top of a black coat, it makes that silver pop. Because black always makes silver shine bright. Don't know why that is, science, but for some reason it does.
Any more questions?
I use chalkboard for the public.
I know there's burning questions out there.
Any recommendations for like understructures that are sturdy but are also affordable? So things like, I've done things like chicken wire and stuff, but it tends to be a little bit cumbersome.
We use a lot of PVC
PVC.
because it's cheaper than dirt.
And when you do PVC, make sure it's thin-walled PVC, because they have different thicknesses. Make sure it's thin-walled. Like for the neck, I had to go thick-walled, because that's supporting his entire head and all that kind of stuff. But for the main body, all of it was really thin-walled. Some of them I even drilled out to be even thinner, like especially around the tail section and stuff. And it just kind of lightens it just a tiny bit.
I mean, you can use it, so for us, because we don't use a lot of fabric design work for ours, we do the PVC foam structure. I have in the past for medium-sized costume pieces where there is fabric involved, I've done that thin foam, the craft foam, because we did a lot of pepper pura years ago. And so if you're doing something kind of with an understructure, you can do that kind of same technique.
That was before I discovered 3D printing.
He's moved to the dark side. But you can use that kind of as a lighter base, so that we still have that volume, but not necessarily the weight of chicken wire or the pokey of chicken wire.
Yeah, like with the dinosaur, his skeleton was only very simple. Then on the in-between parts, like where his body actually was, it's just foam against foam, and then that foam was glued straight to the PVC. And it made it so much more lighter than my original design. My original design was going to be much heavier. It's going to be like actual wood and stuff, which would have taken the weight from 110 pounds to like 200 and something. I could lift that and walk around for hours.
While you're building it, will it get damaged?
Will it get damaged easily while you're building it and moving around?
Well, okay, again, dinosaur. With the dinosaur, since we own our house, we are able to modify our house. If you're renting, I wouldn't recommend doing anything like this. But in our garage, I created a winch system to lift the entire dinosaur up so that I can work on him standing up, legs down, all that kind of stuff. That way I can move around him, get under him, get inside of his mouth, whatever I need to do. And that worked out pretty good.
But there is a level always to expect that things are going to break. I mean, I hate to say that, but
You know, we didn't even get him to the con yet. He was already breaking.
perfect example is unloading the car today. Like,
Yeah, it's glued back in there.
so his handpiece, which has been around for years and years. And this
No, that was my new one, my other one that we left and that went over.
okay, the other one has been around for years. This one, you know, there's like heavy duty, like automotive components in here and epoxies and resins, and even in the process of some little
This thing is a science
pylons, one of the pylons fell off. Remember, super glue it real quick, stick it back on, and super glue it home. But yeah, there's always a level where things are gonna break, or things could get damaged while you're making them.
Always expect for it to break, but whenever it doesn't, just be like, yes, it survived, therefore I did a good job.
Yeah, and that's why I always recommend bringing an emergency repair kit with you.
Here's a good example. I would have fixed this before we came here, but this arm, normally whenever I move my arm, the gears all rotate. But right here, the connecting gear between those snapped off whenever I bent my arm, and some of the leather that's been coming loose for the last couple months got caught inside of them and just popped right off. And then I just haven't gotten around to fixing it because of rubber.
Yeah. There are a couple other really interesting things that we've been playing around with too, as an experimental level. One of them is A3 pen.
And these are fairly cheap-ish. You can get those on Amazon for like $50. Comes with a bunch of filament.
And it's a really incredibly unique tool. You can use it to pretty much bond things together in many ways. You can use it to, like, let's say you have a costume you're making and you need a special button, and you don't want to spend like $300 to have a 3D printer, and you don't want to pay
Go to
someone
like
to make it.
Shapeways or something.
You know, you can always use one of these to kind of practice and make little buttons with it. We've used it to make little accoutrement for the side of things, little florets. And it's just like a lot of fun, and it's not necessarily, you can get them for like super cheap sometimes in this little stuff like $50. It's kind of fun to play around with. And they're great for bonding things. It's okay to come, and then you gotta really learn how to behave itself.
I have two questions. Did the eyes glow?
Yep, they glow. There's, I think the LED's actually still in there. I just don't have a battery to it. But yeah, the eyes glow, nice bright green. These eyes are actually filtered down because I have a friend that lives back east in a lighting company, and he's like a military lighting company, if that gives anyone a hint to where this is going. These are actually filtered down with black layers in between it. So if I was to take all this apart and wire it to a 12-volt car battery that was inside this entire dinosaur,
Line of
this thing lit up like the sun. It's literally a blinding LED. That's what it was built for. So I had to be very careful wiring it together because that thing was intense. So when you like look at the video of him online and you see how bright his eyes are, just remember those are filtered down 7 times.
And it's broad daylight, but you're seeing the light still coming out of the eyes.
And that's what I wanted, was something that kept some mystery, because if you look at normal LEDs, you're like, is that thing on? I can't tell. It's like the middle of the daylight. I wanted something like in the daylight. These things just boom.
Oh, and what are the teeth made out of?
The teeth are also EVA foam.
You know all those little edge bits that we talked about throwing away? Well, that's where they went.
Yeah, so if you need to create like teeth or something, those little end pieces, perfect spacing. Then no one knows this, but he actually has a tongue.
We have about 4 minutes left. Is there any other questions?
Does anyone want to come up here and look at anything or touch anything? Feel free to
Touch and play and...
just don't pick up the backpack. This was pretty I just literally finished that.
This program was produced in whole or in part with equipment and facilities provided by Missoula Community Access Television.